Hey guys, another warm day, but it was raining like Vietnam out there. It was pretty bad. Didn't end up getting to do any of the outdoor work we were trying to do, but you know, just kind of a miserable, gloomy day altogether. And I'm going to talk about something kind of miserable and gloomy, and the reason why is just because I don't see the media circus that would typically follow something like this, particularly if, unfortunately, if the races were reversed. Um, Basically, 25-year-old guy, Darius Sessoms, Wilson, North Carolina, basically executed a 5-year-old little boy who was just riding his bike out in front of his own house while his 7 and 8 year old sisters watched. This kid's name, I want to make sure I get the name right. Canon Hinnant. Just some innocent kid. I mean, I say innocent kid. It's like there's really no question. The 5-year-old's pretty much inherently innocent. So it's not like there was a dispute and we're not sure what happened here. It's like no, I mean, something really bad went down. I don't know what this. Yeah, I'm looking at the mugshot right now. The guy who did it, and sometimes they've got that kind of crazy look, and you can kind of tell. And you're like, yeah, okay, that person was unhinged. This guy, I can't really tell. I don't know what could possibly motivate someone to murder a 5-year-old in broad daylight like that. It doesn't. That kind of thing doesn't compute for, I think, a normal person, because there's no logical justification for that. I mean, is it a hate crime? Well, yeah. I mean, it requires enough hate to stick a gun to the head of a 5-year-old and execute him. That's a lot of hate right there, regardless of whether it's racial hate or whatever the hell the reason was. This guy had like previous felonies and stuff, and he had weapons charge violations, and so the gun he used was, he had obtained illegally. So who the hell knows how that happened. This is such a scary thing because this is something that couldn't have been prevented by anything that the kid's parents could have done, because you have a certain amount of expectation that your neighbors aren't just going to walk outside and murder your kid in your front yard. How do you prepare for that? There's nothing you can do to prepare for that. And it could have been a gun, could have been a knife, could have been a bat. It doesn't matter. It's a 5-year-old kid. They're defenseless. And it's a really disturbing story that probably hits home for a lot of people, because it's like one of those like in a lot of ways it's like a natural disaster, where it's like that's something that's just so random. It's kind of the hate in the human heart is kind of a force of nature, and stories like this really, where there's no logical reason why this should have occurred. It's humbling. It really, you realize there's real evil and insanity out there, and I hope the cops get to the bottom of it. A lot of people are pointing out that basically there's no media circus around this, because the boy was white and the perp was black. And looking at the two pictures, that is an accurate description. So they're not, they're not wrong about that. I think, in some ways, I'm glad there isn't a media circus about it, because it's horrific. It really gets people worked up, but there's not much point in doing that. And there's really not enough information out. Like, I don't think enough outlets are covering it. But in terms of the 24-hour circus you would see under other circumstances, let's say, I don't think that's healthy. That's not going to help his family heal, and that's not going to bring justice any faster to the guy. They arrested him. He's being charged with first-degree murder. So, it seems like justice is going to be had. But I think what people are just pointing out the fact that if the races had been reversed, we probably wouldn't be hearing. I should say we would be hearing about this case nonstop. We'd have all kinds of speculation about the motive. It would be a talking point. It would be a political football, and I don't want to be cynical, or I should say, I feel cynical believing this, but I think that's actually probably true. Um, it's actually like the Ryan Whitaker story I talked about. You don't hear about that at all. And had Ryan been a black guy, it just would be all over the news. And those officers would still be in the wrong. It doesn't matter. But because he's white, he's not. Nobody's marching with a sign for him. And they probably should in Phoenix. If any of these police killings were worth protesting, I mean that one was just, especially after that body cam footage was released, that was awful. But yeah, just I wanted to, not that I have any particular special insight, but I wanted to just make sure there was more content out there, kind of bringing attention to this case, just so that people kind of know what happened. It's a really sad thing, but people should be aware that like violence and hatred and stuff, it doesn't go just one direction like they would have you think. Um, it's just what we hear about. Something happens to a minority, we hear about it constantly, and then all this speculation happens that's racially motivated. I mean, the George Floyd thing is a perfectly good example where the speculation was it was a racially motivated hate crime, and it turns out after watching the body cam footage, it wasn't, and they overcharged him, and Chauvin's probably going to walk because of the overcharging. But in this case, it was whatever the Conservative Daily or something. They had some speculation that I think wasn't very journalistic. They were saying like, did Democrats embolden this kind of violence? Maybe, but I don't think it would. You can, unless you have evidence that links this particular case to that. It's kind of irresponsible to say that. That's like the Trump's rhetoric, emboldened the whatever, the killer of whoever. That's playing that game. I don't like that game at all. Most outlets I'm seeing aren't really speculating. They're just saying basically police are investigating and it's a first degree murder charge. There's also some witnesses, and witness testimony is usually completely unreliable because you got somebody who's saying kind of what happened, and that seemed like that made sense because it was just kind of order of events and nothing outrageous. But then there was like some other people they were digging into who were like, oh, he had dinner with the father the night before or something. Like I don't know. I don't know how reliable that is. I don't know if that's really worth. I'm not sure if that's even worth reporting. Because it's gonna come out in the investigation. Nobody's got any motivation to protect this guy from who killed this kid, and there's no indication that anything but pretty much a cold-blooded murder occurred. So we'll see. I mean, we'll follow the story. I'm sure when he's convicted, it'll pop back up in the feed again. But we're probably not going to hear about it. I mean, maybe somebody will mention it if they, it is a spicy political bomb to throw. You can point at this and say, hey, look, the media didn't care about this, and it's a shame because this kid didn't deserve this. It feels kind of scummy to do that. But at the same time, I understand why someone would go there because basically the left is constantly, and anything that happens to anybody they can spin as racist, they do. I mean, just look at this Kamala crap that came out. Like immediately, the puff pieces were being written, and then the Republicans pounce because apparently they're sexist and racist, and I refer to her as did I call her African American? That's actually not even accurate. She's like Jamaican Indian. I don't know. She referred to herself as that, so that's why I assumed. But I kind of looked into it more, and she's just more of a she just pretends to be whatever's convenient, whatever the first is, and it's silly. And they're trying to say, oh, her parents are immigrants. It's like, yeah, but so is Trump's. So that's not a first either. Um, and I did see her come out. I don't know if you remember that interview a couple weeks ago where she had a facelift, and that was one people were like really basically locking the bet down that she was the pick, and I wasn't so sure because the facelift looked really bad. She came out. She's whoever's doing her makeup's doing a better job, but the facelift is like it's like it's like the Joker like from the animated series with like the cheeks like really high, and she looks really creepy. Um, in the shots they had, she was kind of zoomed out at the podium, so it wasn't as bad. Plus, the whoever did the makeup did like a lot better job of covering that. But when she's going to be in like the interviews, like the close-up stuff, I get a feeling that's going to really turn people the wrong way. And I don't think anybody's going to even say anything about it. But she looked really freaky. Like whatever that plastic surgeon did, they messed up her face because she was looking. I mean, she was fine. When she was younger, she was attractive enough, and she was thin, and she just was getting old. She had, wrinkles because she's not a spring chicken. And I guess she wanted to, do what Pelosi did, where she just like completely, injected her face. Hillary Clinton had the same thing, where it was like she was starting to actually, look her age, and then they basically just completely reset her face with plastic surgery and kicked all the makeup on, and then they're trying to do the same thing with her. Um, Guys, if you really need an attractive candidate, like you had like Tulsi Gabbard, who like I can't stand her, but like she actually looks the part. If that's really image is that important to you, because if you go through especially with the world of television and high definition video, if you go the route of plastic surgery, most of the time people are going to see straight through it, and it's going to look really kind of inhuman. So I don't understand that. But whatever. That's my addition to kind of what else was happening in the news. But I just wanted to cover this story just so that there's somebody else talking about it, because there's really not that many people out there, mentioning this kid, and he deserves justice just like anybody else would. And it's sad. I think people should just know the story exists and patiently wait the criminal justice system do what it does. But evil cuts both ways. It doesn't have a race. It doesn't have a gender. Doesn't have doesn't have an identity. It just does what it does. So that's all.